Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're playing more Walsingham Chapter 2. Oh. In the last one, we broke into the mansion. Now we're back in England. Remember that couple that died? I didn't know we were talking to Diego. I guess now it makes sense that everything's tying up, because that Serbian hitman was probably over here. Diego, Rusty, what are you doing here, old friend? I told you I'd call after my meeting with the Prestons. Diego, why aren't you answering your phone? Oh, I changed my number a couple months ago. I lost my British mobile when I moved apartments. I had to get a new one when I got here. I was going to tell you my new number, but it slipped my mind. What's wrong, amigo? Why do you look so out of breath? Who is this beautiful rose you have with you here? Diego, have you met with the Prestons yet today? No, not yet. Seems as though they too aren't answering their phones today. They're already over an hour late for our meeting. What's wrong, Rusty? Why do you look so serious? Just before I clocked out today, Chief Inspector Richardson asked me to look at a single vehicle collision that occurred over south of Hucknall. Upon investigating with Sergeant Detective Wilson here, we found out that the couple that died in the collision were actually Ian and Ada Preston, your clients. What? No, it cannot be. Take a look at these photos. We found this diamond necklace on Ada Preston, and this is the license plate and car involved in the collision. Can you please confirm that these belong to your clients, the Prestons? Yes, this is all theirs. It is Ada's necklace, and I have definitely seen them drive this car before, though granted they have many cars. Oh God, how could this have happened? Has this couple not suffered enough? I'm not going to start crying. Mr. Calatrava, we'd like to ask you some questions about... Sergeant, give the man a moment, for God's sakes. He's very close to these people. Sorry, sir. It's fine, Rusty. I too have many questions to ask too, so please, detective, ask me whatever you want. Very well. Mr. Calatrava? Commandant Calatrava, actually. I was with the Spanish Guardia Civil before I went private. Okay, my apologies. Commandant Calatrava, do you know of anyone that would want one of the Prestons dead? Did they have any enemies? Enemies? They had many. You kick up a media fuss like they did, and you're sure to make a lot of enemies. You must have been a teenager when the famous Preston case was all over the news, so I don't know how much you remember. But the stories simply would not leave the media cycles. All of Europe had their eyes fixed on the seaside town of Troyvea to see what the outcome would be. All this attention put a lot of pressure on the Spanish government to find the Preston's little girl. So, after a month's time, when no sign of little Alice emerged, heads began to roll. The chief of the police of Torrevieja was forced to resign, so was my commanding colonel. Then when some of the newspapers speculated that the disappearance was the Preston's fault, Ian's law firm hit them back with all the force in their power. They even managed to bankrupt and sink some of the smaller publications that had made this claim. So yes, enemies, that family had many. But to wish death? That is a much stronger claim. Wait, Rusty, are you telling me that you think the Prestons were murdered? Diego, you know I can't. Rusty, don't give me your protocol bullshit. I've attended your son's wedding. We vacationed together. Heck, I'm even one of your grandson's godfathers. I found Daganov's shells in a nearby tower, and it looks like a gunshot wound decapitated Ian Preston, caused him to drive into a tree. And Ada died in the impact. They were going at 60 miles per hour when they slammed into the tree. Commander Calatrava, this is why we need to find out who would possibly want the Prestons dead. Like I said before, the list is long. Don't forget that the person who probably wants them dead is whoever kidnapped little Alice. I'm sure they would never imagine that their crime would have had such a global impact. It's been 10 years since it happened. It's a hell of a long time to wait to snuff out the Prestons. Commandant, you said that your old colonel and Torreveja's chief of police both lost their jobs over the incident? Where are they now? Chief of police ended up becoming the mayor of Torreveja. Seriously? Because he kept appearing in the news, everyone knew his name. By the time the election for mayor had come up, public opinion in Spain had turned against the Prestons. He was essentially a shoo-in for the position and won by a landslide. Public opinion went against the poor couple? In Spain it did. After investigation had still been going underway for more than a month, British press started labeling us Spaniards as lazy and inefficient. They even began accusing us of taking hour-long lunches and daily siestas. It was very racist indeed. Lunch breaks are usually an hour long! The Spanish public did not care for these labels, and the Spanish press fired back at the Brits for treating us Spaniards like we were a colony of their empire. Sadly, the Prestons got caught up in the crossfire, and the Spanish press had a field day with them too. Is this chief of police still Mayor Torrevieja? Yes, he still enjoys a lot of popularity there. His name? Alejandro de Santa Ana. Sergeant, this man has, if anything, benefited from the president's misfortune. I seriously don't think he'd risk a flourishing political career over people he probably doesn't hate anyway. You can take him off the short list of suspects. Just covering all the bases, sir. Okay, how about your colonel? He was less lucky. My colonel was a career policeman with his entire family serving in the Guardia Civil for the past 4 generations. He took his dismissal very personally, and entered deep depression. He didn't leave his house for half a year after. I see. You'll have to forgive me, but I'm finding your rank system very confusing. Who was higher ranking, him or the chief of police? Neither. Local police and Guardia Civil are 2 different entities. They have a very different system in Spain, Sergeant. Every city has its own local police, but then they also have paramilitary organizations that police and protect at a national level. So are you hearing ranks like colonel and commandant? Okay, but who was actually running the show? Both. We each had our own investigative team on the job. And you weren't working together? Of course not. Why would we? Because you're working on the same case? I see you haven't worked for the government very long, my dear. What's that supposed to mean? Don't you know that government entities and departments never trust each other? Ever wonder why the U.S. Navy uses their own pilots and airplanes for their aircraft carriers rather than using Air Force Ones? Air Force One is the president's. The Navy has its own pilots and everything, but they don't use the Air Force stuff. But that has nothing to do with Air Force One. That's right. I don't know. Like, I'm very iffy when it comes to American, like, military stuff, even though I do live in the States. But Air Force One is just the president's plane. That has nothing to do with the fact that the Navy and the Air Force don't really work together. But that's how most of them are. Anyways, that's going to keep bugging me, so I'm going to continue. Okay, so both your colonel and the chief of police led their own investigations, which is why they both got the axe, right? Correct. Any idea where your colonel is today? Last I heard, he moved down to Mexico a couple years ago. He has some family there. I believe his daughter is married to a Mexican federal. I heard some wild stories that he even got a job with the federales, hunting the drug cartels in Mexico. But I doubt that is true. With a stand on his career like he had, I think it's unlikely that the Mexican government would hire a foreigner like him for the job. His name? Esteban Lopez. It's a very common name. Do you know his middle name? I'm afraid not, but I still have a lot of Guardia Civil contacts. I'll have no problem finding out. Sergeant, let me take over from here. I want you to be as thorough as possible, but detective work is a lot about instinct, and I don't feel this is the right line of inquiry. That's because it's your buddy. In the States, you would not be interrogating or questioning your friend. You would have been pulled off the case. I understand, sir. You have to ask yourself, Sergeant. It's been over a decade since the case at Preston's was in the news. Why kill him now? Maybe they know something that they didn't know before? Exactly, Diego. Do you know anything about the new lead that the Prestons were so excited about? They didn't discuss the details, but I know that they hired another private investigator recently who they said came up with something big. Do you know their name? I'm afraid not, but Ian was very excited. He said this guy was a cryptographer that was involved with MI6 or something like that. Oh, and he never arranged for you to have a meeting with them? From what I heard, this guy still works for MI6, so he's doing this as a secret side gig. So he kept his identity hidden. They only corresponded by mail. That means that there's might be some mail for Ian Preston here. Indeed, there might be. Let's take a look. Look at that. Look at that little line. Oh. I was assuming breaking into the hotel room. Hi there, would you have any mail for Ian Preston? Yes, I believe I do. I'll need to see some ID. I'm with the Nottingham Police. Remember to always show your badge first, Sergeant. Of course. Thank you, ma'am. He received mail this morning. Okay. We have some of this encryption. So, I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna try to see what I can figure out. 1 second. I figured since there's like, I can't like show the math in my head, it wouldn't be as fun. Okay. So I wrote it down and I did the translation that we know. And I think, I don't have an idea what this says in its entirety. But, I don't know if my mouse is showing up. But if it is, this QGD shows up quite a few times. And because we have the G and this is an I, I'm thinking this is hi and then this is Ian. And considering that there's H, the most common word with like an H in the middle or something like that is the, so I replace all of these with like the proper letters. I think. And the other thing I think I know is this P right here is either a S or a T. Mainly, I'm kind of going with the contractions. It's one or the other. Because I'm kind of leaning towards T. Because if this is a contraction, NT would make sense. However, this could be a name, and then it would be S. Because unfortunately, here, the square P, it would make logical sense for it to be either is or it. So that's where I'm a little bit confused, because it would make sense to kind of just move all the letters for some of these, like the G and then this being the. I don't know if there's multiples. And then you have stuff like here. I don't know 100% if that's a B, because that one looks different than this one. But then they all kind of look a little bit different. But see how like the top is noticeably bigger than the bottom? And this one looks more like a half butterfly. So I'm not sure if that's a different thing. That looks like a very weird 3, so I'm not sure. And that's noticeably a 5. And I don't think they would do zeros and O's to fuck with everything. Hopefully we get at least one more clue as to what happens. I just wanted to explain that. Dear God, what is that? Diego, you did say this detective was an MI6 cryptographer, right? Yes, Ian said something along those lines. Must agree to some code to keep their message private. It will take us a while to decode this. Indeed it will, but we have a lead to follow first anyways. See the letterhead on this note? That office and file storage facility is just a 10-minute drive from here. I'm pretty sure whatever we're looking for is there. So, I guess we get back in the car? Yep. Okay, Robin Hood office and file storage. Yep, it's gonna be all 3 of us. Oy vey. What did that note say? Okay, that gave us nothing. Oh God. Oh no. If that's what this is going to be, I'm seeing how many buildings we have. Okay, it looks like 3 stories. Because we have... Okay, it looks like 4. They're 3 stories each. We also don't have a code. We don't have a code. Oh my God. Okay. We're gonna have to do some, like, insane math. Like, insane shit. To at least narrow down one of these buildings. So we have Leicester. Northampton. The other one was Derby. Oh, why can't there be, like, an office building? Lincoln. I don't... I'm wondering if we're supposed to know how to solve this crypt. Like, if that's what we're supposed to do? Go to the something in... Okay, I'm gonna double check and make sure that I'm not supposed to know what the code is first. Hold on. Okay, so I was right. It is a simple, like, letter, like, shift sort of one. you just move everything over. I will read what it says. Hi, Ian. Go to the Lincoln Building, 3rd floor. I rented out a locker, put a file there for you. The locker is R5C3. And the password is to Queen's birthday. So, 5... 1, 2, 3. This one... unfortunately, I don't know the Queen's birthday. And I am going to rely on this one to give it to me, which is April 21st, 1926. Also, the Queen is dead, so. Okay, read the file? Okay, what do you see inside? It's a bunch of maps. They're mostly maps of cities in Scotland, for what I could tell. They're also maps of Spain. He obviously had a bunch of different maps of Torrevieja, but then there's also maps of Cartagena, Murcia, and Alicante, the cities that neighbor Torrevieja. Anything else? He also has historical weather charts for Torrevieja, Cartagena, Murcia, Alicante, Dundee, Aberdeen, and Inverness. Any of this have meaning to you, Diego? The maps of Torrevieja and the surrounding towns and cities make sense. I have no idea what the ones in Scotland are about. Also, I don't get why he has all these historical weather reports. I don't really see how they have any strong relevance to Alice Preston's case. Are you getting anything, Sergeant? Well, on every weather chart he has the town of Brakelin underlined. On top of that, every Scottish map has Brailkirk circled in red with an arrow pointing to it. Any ideas, sir? It's a small town in the Highlands, pretty close to Kristen's father's estate, so I've actually passed by a few times. Can't imagine why it's related to the case. I'm guessing this is where our next lead probably is. Looks like we have a road trip ahead of us. Ugh. It's a 7-hour drive to that part of Scotland. Can't we fly? Still a 2-hour drive from Inverness to Brailkirk. Aside the fact that between checking in and getting our bags, at the end, the flight still takes 4 hours. 7-hour tops. Also, driving is cheaper. Heaven knows this chief inspector will want to crucify me if this case takes me across the country. Might as well save money where I can. Okay, no time to lose. Let's go. Sergeant, did you not hear me say it's a 7-hour drive? Probably to spend the day there to investigate whatever this serious detective wanted Ian Preston to see. Oh. You'll have to forgive old Rusty and me, Lucy. We're not as young and energetic as we once were. Driving 7 hours straight through the night, then working on a case the whole day, then driving home through the evening may very well kill us. Indeed, we'll probably need to at least spend one night there. Why don't we all go home, pack our bags, and get a little rest? So you can go home and watch MasterChef with your wife. Promise her that I'd make it home in time for it. If I dash out now, I have just enough time to buy some chicken masala and naan before the episode begins. Aww. Then we can reconvene at the police station in a couple hours to drive over to Brailkirk. So, Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland, Research Facility, Kirkwall, outskirts of Orkney, UK. Mark, again, why do we need to wear these Royal Navy uniforms? You work for the British government. You can stroll in and look at whatever you want, right? Sarah, if you found out something in the Pentagon was doing something shady, would it be easy for you to walk in as a Gloucester PD cop to get over their files? No, but I'm assuming that your MI6 powers are more extensive than my Gloucester PD ones. It's not like an FBI or CIA agent. I'll give you that, but in this case, I don't want to spook anyone. This is a top-secret naval research facility, for some reason, built in the middle of the Orkneys. The only people here are Navy personnel and scientists. In my opinion, it's a hell of a lot easier for people like you and me, who are accustomed to being in uniformed services, to pass as naval officers than as scientists. Fine, we'll stick with your plan. Did you forget to practice your British accent with Sam on a flight over? Yeah, of course I did. I think I have it perfect now. Okay, let's hear it. Top of the morning to you. It's Irish. Hello, Governor. Performing at a Gilbert and Sullivan show? It's okay, let me do all the talking. What do I do if someone talks to me? Guess you have no choice to use a Cockney accent. It's a bit exaggerated, but if you limit your words, it should be fine. Mark, before we go any further, you need to tell me what Alpha Centauri is. I would have asked you on the flight over, but you were sleeping so soundly. I don't know if I can tell you that, Sarah. Well, I'm about to enter a restricted naval facility impersonating a British naval officer. Basically, I, a police officer who is strictly speaking a U.S. government employee and an indirect representative of the United States government, am about to commit actions that could have me arrested for fraud and espionage. I initially joined you and your troop on this marriage case for two reasons. One, I believe it would help me solve the case of the double homicide of Willowdale Nature Reserve, In doing so would help prove that I was framed and would exonerate me from these false bribery claims. Now, as we are standing here in Scotland about to enter this facility, I can't help but think that maybe I deviated from my own objectives. So you gotta give me something, Mark. Fine, you make a fair point. Let's go through the facts then. John Brigham was definitely working with the male victim at Willowdale Nature Reserve. What was his name? Jeffrey Goldberg? That's the one. You saw the note in the locker. You don't share that type of thing with someone unless you're actually working together. Agreed. Whatever John Brigham and Jeffrey Goldberg were investigating clearly surrounds a clique of officers who we found out have some relation to this facility. Wouldn't it be logical to think that this actual clue to discovering who killed the couple at Willowdale lies in with who Goldberg and Brigham were investigating? I suppose that makes sense. If you want to sit this one out with Blake and Sam at the safe house in Kirkwall, then that's completely fine with me. I'll give you a report when I get back. And I know that glint in your eye, that glint that appears as the case begins to unfurl itself. I know that glint because I have it too. A fire inside me that won't stop until the case is solved. Sarah, I know that you want to see this through with your own eyes, am I correct? I suppose. I thought so. One last question. Why did you choose me to help you on this bit? Surely Sam and Blake would have been a better choice. You spent time with Sam. Subtlety is not her thing. You can say that again. Don't get me wrong. In a firefight, there's no one else I'd rather have next to me. Except Oksana, maybe. As for Blake, he's the best at intel and comms, so I rarely actually put him in the field. I see, so basically I was the only expendable one? No, you're the career detective. Your skills in deductive reasoning are invaluable to be on this mission. Looks like Sam is right. You do know how to flatter your way out of problems. Fine, I'll stay. Okay, we are going to end the episode here. In the next one, we are going to basically break into a British naval facility, commit some crimes, maybe solve this thing. Who knows? Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!